Over the next few days, Jemima set out to discover just what her powers were. She knew that she was invulnerable to some extent. Her fall had proven that. Her first big break had come one afternoon after she saw a gang of skulls attacking a few businessmen. It had made her so angry when she saw it that she balled up her fists in anger. She almost didn't notice that they had become enveloped in a bright red energy till she felt the warmth radiating from them. She ran home as fast as she could to log her findings. A few days later, Jemima found herself in an awkward position at the track when her feet became encased in stone as she was sitting on the bench after a run. She found that she could still walk with them in this state. She could even run, albeit at a considerably slower rate. Another thing struck her as odd. When her feet were encased in the stone, she felt refreshed. Her exhaustion from her run faded in moments, and she felt like she'd been resting for hours. Ever the scientist, she logged this discovery as well. "I'm telling you, Kim, I'm a superhero," she told her best friend as the two sat on her couch eating ice cream that Saturday. "I'm not saying you aren't, I'm just wondering what you plan to do about it," Kim asked her as she took a sip of her wine. Jemima shrugged. "I was thinking of registering and doing it full-time," she said, taking a bite of her ice cream, getting some on her chin in the process. Kim chuckled and wiped her friend's chin with a napkin. "Lemme guess, you're gonna be the amazing super baby," she said, causing Jemima to pout. Kim frowned. "Sorry, it's just, well, it's not very scary being attacked by a cute girl that still wears diapers. It'd just be embarrassing to be beaten up by you," she said, trying to make her friend feel better. "Maybe that's what I could do," Jemima said, getting a confused look from Kim. "Maybe when I go out to fight crime I'd just wear a shirt and a diaper. Anyone that I beat would be humiliated," she said with a giggle. Kim smiled. "Just promise me that if you do decide to go through with this that you'll be careful," she told her friend and gave her a hug. "I love you, Jess, and I don't want to see you get hurt for being a good person," she told her. Jemima smiled back at her. "I love you too, Kim, and I promise that I'll be careful," she said, and continued to eat her ice cream. That night, Jemima sat on the ledge of the roof of her building listening to the sounds of sirens and gunshots echo in the night. "I'm coming, Paragon," she said quietly. The next day, Jemima went to Paragon City Hall. Her heart beat rapidly as she stepped from her car and walked up the steps to Atlas Plaza. The giant monument to the fallen hero Atlas towered over the plaza as a reminder to everyone of the great sacrifice Atlas had made to defend Paragon from Nazi attack in the late 30s. The giant stone statue of Atlas holding the world on his back made Jemima feel very tiny. It certainly did not steal her resolve that she was making the right decision. As she walked into City Hall, the crinkling of her diaper seemed deafening. She got strange looks from all the heroes and city officials inside the building as she walked up to the registration counter. The man behind the counter leaned forward and looked down at her. "Are you lost, little girl?" he asked with a chuckle. Jemima felt her face become hot from embarrassment and anger. "No, sir, I'd like to register as a superhero," she said, with a symbolic stance of her hands on her hips and chest puffed out. The laughter from everyone in the room almost made her cry. She started to seriously doubt herself and her choice to come here. She became angry. She balled up her fists and let the glowing energy take over. She felt her feet become encased in stone again, and she spoke to the man behind the counter again. "Listen, Tubby, I'm here to register myself as a superhero, and Atlas himself wouldn't be able to stop me from doing it. So what makes you think an overweight desk jockey like yourself has a say in the matter?" she asked with a menacing gaze. The man became flustered and quickly gathered all of the necessary papers and shakily handed them over to her. Jemima's demeanor changed immediately once she got the papers. She smiled brightly and thanked the man and went to fill out her papers. Jemima filled out all of the required information on the form: her name and age, her height and weight, and known powers. The only spot she still had to fill out was the codename spot. "What do I call myself?" she wondered as she looked at her attire. "Nice work in there. That guy is always finding something to pick on new heroes for. I must say that you make it much easier than most," a woman's voice said from behind her. Jemima turned and saw a tall red-headed woman in white tights and a flowing orange cape standing behind her. "I guess I did. but he didn't have to be a jerk, she said. The woman came and sat down on the steps in front of her. My name's Sue, Sue Radiance, she said with a warm smile and an extended hand. Jemima shook her hand and smiled back. And you are? Sue asked. Jemima blushed. I haven't come up with a name yet, she said shyly. Sue smiled and gave a chuckle. I had that problem when I was starting out too, she said. Sue stood up and looked Jemima up and down for a moment. Is that what you're gonna wear when you go on missions? She asked, hiding her smile at the adorable girl standing before her. Jemima nodded. I thought that it would make my victory more humiliating on the villain, she said meekly. That's brilliant, Sue said with a laugh. Nothing worse than being beat up by a cute girl in diapers, she said, causing Jemima to blush by being called cute. How about you call yourself? Sue paused as she thought for a moment. The diapered dandy, she finally said. Jemima smiled. That's perfect, she said, and quickly jotted it down on the form. Thankies. She squealed and raced back inside to turn her forms in. Sue smiled to herself. Looks like I found myself a new friend, she thought, and teleported away. Once her paperwork had been processed and she was registered as a new hero, she was told to report first thing in the morning to her trainer for her first assignment.